Hello and welcome to the Quantum Bridge with myself, Casper, my co-host Gary, and we're very, very pleased to be welcoming back a returning guest from Uganda.
Yeah, Uganda.
Right. Just wanted to make sure. David, hi, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Oh, I'm very fine, and thank you for hosting me once again. I'm so happy that I'm here today again, speaking about what is affecting our communities, and I think it's the right way to go.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we're just pleased to have you back again. We really enjoyed the first conversation. David, I think you're keen to talk about certain things. So rather than us start by asking you questions this time, do you want to start talking about what's happened or what you've been feeling since our last conversation?
Yeah, definitely, yes. Yeah, I actually, since our last conversation, I shared the video, the link with on my socials, and people were giving a good feedback. They feel what we are doing is right. We're actually sharing issues that people fear to talk about, and things that people ignore. So that's what we discuss in this platform. So what I got, sorry, what I got was a good feedback from the society. Then I still felt there are some other things. Since we had limited time, there are some issues that haven't been discussed and people are overlooking them here in Uganda and elsewhere in the world. Recently, I had another presentation with through the Golden Door, and one of the issues we were discussing was the male empowerment. And I didn't have enough time to stress out much in that presentation, since we were many making the presentation. So I had very, very limited time. However, I feel today, with the time that we shall have, maybe I'll also be able to stress this further to the rest of the communities.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just wanted to ask you, David, just as a sidebar here, really, what sort of influencers, sort of global influencers online, in terms of the digital landscape, excuse me, are have a big following or attract a lot of attention there? I'm thinking really, because Gary just sent me quite a funny or interesting reel to do with Andrew Tate, who seems to get a lot of press around all this thing of masculinity and the definition of what it is to be male versus what we're now told it is. You know, all of those different things that have become very charged recently. Have you got influencers over there? Are they exactly the same as we're likely to see, or are there other people? Obviously, you're one of them, but
as I shared in the previous interview that we had,
yeah,
people in Uganda are timid. Most of them fear to talk about facts. In the society and community I'm in here, it's hard to speak facts, because sometimes when you talk about them, people have been whitewashed, let me say brainwashed, for purposes of clarity. So there are so many things that happen and people actually overlook them. They take them as normal, and yet actually they are not normal. So because of what has been set up already for people to follow, so the system that is existing has made people believe wrong is right and right is wrong. So it's hard to speak. However, for some of us who have opened up to speak about this, we are few, really, really very few. Very, very few. In a group of 100, you may find one or none.
Yeah.
It's probably not
So
bad.
Yeah. If you find one, you've done well in 100. Yeah.
So I find myself isolating. I find myself isolating from other people because of what I know that they don't know, and what I believe in that they don't believe in. So it's really hard to find people who are open enough to speak about facts.
Would that have been different, David, 10 years ago? I mean, 10 years ago, would there have been more of a consensus around sort of what you consider to be normal and what you consider to be truth? Has this change happened in the last few years, or has this change happened in your whole lifetime or even in generations before?
Truth is just beginning to emerge, and few people are aware, few people are awake, have awakened to it. Some years back, it was even hard to talk about certain things. You couldn't even actually find someone speaking about this. But today, at least I'm proud. I'm one of the people who speak from here in Uganda. I'm also proud to mention that there are other people also who are also awakened to it, and they are in other countries. And I'm glad that I'm able to meet people like you and others that I associate with, although we are distant. It gives motivation and strength that someday, it gives us hope that someday something good will come out of the efforts that we are putting.
And what about in the African continent as a whole, just in Africa as a continent? Do you know how many people, are you getting a sense of whether as a continent people are waking up to sort of what's going on and to their own self-empowerment? Or do you only really get a view of pretty much Uganda and then maybe the Western world where you're seeing things through the media, or you're talking to us, for example? Where are you getting your sense of how the world is and how our worlds are waking up from?
The fact is that in Uganda, I don't have anyone that I interact with about this. In Africa as a whole, I used to have a friend whom I used to talk about these things, and he's a Nigerian. However, I lost contact with him some time back, and I'm not able to interact with him anymore.
Right.
Then in other countries now overseas, for example, in Israel, I had Soshi.
Yeah.
In Singapore, there is Tahira. And then now Tahira has tried to mobilize more people of the kind, and we are interacting more. And also trying to improve the communities. Recently, I'm actually trying to process an operation license for an NGO to try to empower communities with knowledge and truth and facts. So in the name of Foundation Inspired Generation Africa, that's the name of the organization that we have established. We registered in 2021, but being a youth fresh from school, I'm not able to raise funds to run it. But I'm hopeful that when it starts rolling, we start moving after we've got the license. Maybe someone out there will come up and support it, and then we shall be able to do what it takes to empower the communities with knowledge, skills, and the truth that they deserve to know.
Yeah.
So that's what we are.
Do you see that as a humanitarian project, David?
Yeah, it is sort of a humanitarian project, yeah. Because we in Africa, let me talk about Uganda and Teso, where I am. We have plenty of land, plenty of it. But people have been tied to the fact, to the myth that the government is the one that is supposed to help them survive. So people keep calling all the time, government help us, government help us, government come to our rescue. We are poor, we are dying of hunger. But that is not really what people with plenty of land should be crying about. We have plenty of land that we can use for several things. Education in Africa or in Uganda, in Teso sub-region here where I am, people are still tied to the mindset of educating a child for a job somewhere. If you are a student and you tell your father that I want to establish something of my own, you will be regarded to be a fool. And yet in actual sense, we need people to be innovative and creative to be able to uplift the communities here.
Yeah.
So we are looking at, since we have land, we could produce the food that this whole world can feed on and our people get out of poverty. When you empower the community, it is hard to brainwash them again. Somebody who has something to feed on, someone who has a way of survival, does not have time to listen to things that take them to a different angle. So our people are kept in poverty so that they are able to listen to what the so-called leaders, to what they tell them. Whatever they bring, whether it is a lie, whether it is something to brainwash them, they will take. Our people vote because of a piece of soap that is not even worth $1. A politician comes with a piece of soap that is not worth $1 and gives them you give me a vote, I will help you. They give the vote. When the person goes to parliament or gets a government position there, they forget the people down this way. All they want to do is, when somebody has died, they come with some small amount of money to support. Okay? But they are not pulling these people out of poverty. They are not putting them to a level where they can support themselves and where they are no longer vulnerable. So those are some of the things we need to address before the truth lands on these ears. Because the people we are dealing with are people who need to, first of all, get out of vulnerability. Then when they are out of that, it is easy to tell them the truth and they can be able to understand. So that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. What's it like there, David, in terms of employment and things? I mean, is it sort of farming, or is there like sort of making things like crafts or clothing? What do the locals do in that sense to help with this empowerment?
In the community I live in, first and foremost, there are no jobs. Thousands of students graduate every year to fight for very few job opportunities that are existing. However, there is land, but people this way view use of land. Maybe you have graduated as a lawyer, but there is no job. You graduated as a journalist, and there's no job for you. But now there is land here at home that somebody could exploit to survive. But when you come back with your degree to dig back in the village, you are regarded to be a failure. And yet in actual sense, you are trying to make life. So all those things, we need to change that mindset around the societies that we live in. Yeah. But how do we do that? We do it by first empowering them to become self-reliant. Then we can start putting some sense of humanity in them.
And how is the male and female role playing out? Is it still traditional that the man is expected to go out and be the breadwinner, making the money in whatever way, or bringing back whatever type of foods and so on, or is it are your traditional values very changed in the last 10 or 20 years or whatever?
That has not changed over years. It is still a man who works for the family at the moment as we speak. Because even when a woman is working, you hear them saying, my money is mine, but for the man is ours. So that mindset is making our people work but remain poor. Because at the end of the day, after getting money from maybe you've earned your salary, you bring it home, it's your money as a man that has to carry all the burden of the family. But the woman looks at hers as her own, and she can use it for whatever she wants. She can contribute when she wants. So, well, there are families that are awakening to some realities that it is important to help one another as a family. A husband pulls something, a woman pulls something. They are few as we speak now. But I think they are coming out of that.
Mm. But if the man and woman really become a team, then in that sort of aspect, if that can change to the point of being a team who are looking to create not only wealth and self-empowerment for themselves, but for a community and for the next generations. That can be their own next generations, of course, because it will have ripple effects. I think probably in all countries at the moment, where virtually all of us have, if we're in, let's say we're in a married environment, both parents often as well have to work. And it's probably only if you have a plan of action around that you can actually retire at a decent age and actually have enough wealth for your family and for the next generations. It's very hard, it seems, all over the world, not just Africa, not just Western Europe, to actually have what I would consider a decent, or what we are told is a sort of good lifestyle, even on 2 reasonable salaries these days. So I think there's a big change, not just in Africa by the sound of it, but there needs to be a way that all of us can have some level of work-life balance, unless we choose not to. If we want to work all the time and we really want to be trillionaires or whatever, well, that's a different choice. Gary, have you got anything to add?
Where the main problem is, what makes matters worse is that there is a lot of campaign on women empowerment than male empowerment.
Right.
We find that jobs, women are given first priority to get a job. And a man who is even meant to carry, who is even by force made to carry the whole burden of the family, is not given first priority. We are heading into the situation where men are going to be the ones asking for men's emancipation, not again women emancipation. So we are now going to start fighting for empower boy child everywhere in Uganda, all of Africa. When you find street children and you look at them, the boys are the genuine street kids, but the girls are trafficked. In Kampala, as a city of Uganda, the capital city, you find that we have a place where people are, it's called Karamoja sub-region, where Karamojongs live. Karamojongs are a tribe in Teso. So those people are very vulnerable. One, they live in a semi-desert, which is really very, very dry, and it's hard to get food there. And they are still a bit backward. So they traffic those girls from there. They bring them to the city, and then some of them get pregnant from there at a tender age. And also they get some kids and then they give them those kids to carry on their backs. A girl of 12 years is carrying a kid on the back, claiming that is her child or her sister, and they don't have anything to eat. Somebody gives them money, of course, at goodwill, that I'm giving you this money to help. But there is somebody back who is collecting all the money that they are collecting from the streets, and they take. But the real street children are the boys. Why? Nobody's bothering about them. Nobody cares about the boys. These boys are suffering. Their families also don't care. So they find themselves valueless in the family. And then they say, now why should I stay here? Let me go out and try to hustle. Then in the hustle, things are bad. Boys, the male children here, like in Uganda, are the ones who are majority in prisons, because they are now exposed to a lot of activities that are incriminating, and then you find that they are arrested, they are jailed, and then drug abuse comes in, such things. It's only boys who are genuine. And soon we shall be fighting the battle of getting a man back to his sense, because men are losing value due to this too much advocacy on women. So something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. As
How
we
is
keep
the
talking
education
like
there
this,
for
some
children,
people will be
David?
able to hear us.
This is a school behind you, I think you mentioned.
Yes, yes.
Yes, so you said your father is the headmaster, is that right?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. How is it, I mean, what kind of things do they teach in the schools there? Is it sort of maths and basic stuff? Or?
Mora School for the Deaf is a government school.
That's right. This is for the deaf children, isn't it? You said that.
So this school is for deaf children.
Okay.
So they teach them the normal syllabus that other children learn. Also, they have some machines. Actually, my dad did some good lobbying to the extent that this school has got machines that are supposed to help in issues of giving these children life skills, because literally it is hard for them to go up to university. Most of them stop at this level and then they go and they need to find life. However, with all what is there, the resources that are available, there is no funding to pay someone who should be able to teach and train these children these skills, life skills. For example, they have machines for tailoring, but there's nobody to teach them. They have machines for carpentry. There is no one to teach them. Recently, they got computers. I'm actually volunteering to help in teaching them computer. I'm just volunteering. So it's quite tricky. They have whatever it takes to have skills, but there is no money to pay someone to help them.
Mm.
So these children don't go beyond, they rarely go beyond secondary. So they are supposed to be learning much of handwork, much of skills than this normal syllabus.
Yeah. Okay.
Because in the whole Uganda, I think there are not more than 4 secondary schools that are for these children. Even the primary schools, I think there are only 4 also. There is only 1 secondary school that I know of that is in Mbale, and then maybe there's another one in Kampala, I'm not sure, but they are very, very few. So it's hard for them to go beyond secondary.
David, maybe we can put your details again and the other organization that you mentioned and your father's school and just all of that information in our show more section, and then hopefully there might be some people out there that can help in some shape or form. So if you supply us that information by email, we will put it there and try to help, because it is a heartbreaking story in a country where it's already difficult to find work and provide. If also you've then got an additional situation, in this case hearing, that makes it even harder. I mean, it really, yeah, I mean, I think anybody with compassion will feel that they would like to, you know, find ways to help.
I would really appreciate that. I think I can share with you the information and probably the contact of the HM, the headmaster.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will do that.
How are we for time, Gary?
We're short on time again, yeah. Let's go so quickly, yeah. So,
David, at least you managed to get that message across around, because I don't think you might feel that this is a very specific problems to Uganda or even to the African continent. But I think that a lot of these things that you're touching on now will have a resonance with people all over the world, whether in a quote unquote developed nations or not, or whatever. I think that these are the types of things that we are all facing on different levels at the moment. So thank you for bringing them again to our attention.
And I'm very, very happy for what you're doing.
Thank you, David.
I'll always be open to share much more, for as long as we have the time, and we find something to discuss. I'll always be available.
Yeah, and you'll always be welcome.
yes.
Okay, from the Quantum Bridge, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, David. Lovely to see you.
Take care.
All right. Thank you very much for today.